Your sister was also with you, Anna.
My half-sister.
Your half-sister.
Yeah, we all have different fathers.
Was there any tension between the two of you in terms of color,
My sister
dealing
and
with
myself.
relatives? Yes.
I didn't know about tension at the time. All I know is that I was the one that was rejected and she was the one that was accepted. I don't think that I thought of it as tension between the two of us. My sister was very much of a baby at the time. The tension was between the children of the family that my mother gave me to and myself. But when you say tension, I don't even think of it in those terms even then, because I was also very much of a baby myself, having to be growing fast into adulthood. I don't think I remember even a childhood, per se, to be a plain child as you would with other children.
Do you have any fond memories as a child?
Oh, I think the fact that I could find a means of survival was wonderful, because I found the animals. I was running with the dogs and the cats and the birds and the squirrels and the snakes and everything that I could find that would look for food. That was my fun, because it was a big challenge to me as to where I was going to find another route to survive on. And in very many ways, I think I'm still doing the same thing. I'm looking under every corner of life as to where I can find a means of survival. But when you look back on the childhood, I don't think that I thought of it in those days as a suffering thing. We were all more or less in the same boat because none of us had anything. But the part that really sticks with me most naturally, when you think about it in terms of having a hard childhood, is the rejection. The blacks were rejected by the whites, but I was rejected by everybody, except the dogs, the cats, and the birds.
You moved on to New York.
My aunt, my mother's sister sent for me to come to New York because she got a letter from the people, from somebody down south. After my mother married this man and she had a child by him, and she was done away with by the stepchildren of that family of jealousy. And my aunt got a letter that said if I was not taken away from the family that I was given to, that I would either be abused or starved to death or worked to death. So she brought me up to New York. And that's the way I thought that my life would be. I suppose, I don't know how I thought that life would be, but I thought everything would be like 3 square meals a day, because that's what we all aim for. Survival of being able to eat and have warm clothing and not having to be the first one up in the morning and the last one to go to bed at night, and no matter what there was to do, you were the one that did it. Whether it was working in the fields or scrubbing the floors or making the meals. And you were doing that whether you were able to understand why or not. And even though you're barely able to walk, you know, you're forced to do that. As well as be not only physically abused, but sexually amused with by the teenagers of that family. So when you get up north, you think you're not going to be abused anymore. But my aunt, who was an extremely attractive woman, she's absolutely gorgeously beautiful, very majestic looking. You look at her and you think, what a woman, you know. But she had no children of her own. And I don't know why she never married. She had boyfriends. But since she didn't have any children of her own, I don't think that she was cognizant in any way of being responsible for a child. As a matter of fact, I think she resented it. I think she took me out of the South because it was a Christian duty to see to it that a child or a member of her family, blood relation, was not abused. anymore. But she left me on my own. So there were times that I was on my own, walking through the streets, not knowing where I was going or how to return back to where we were living. We were renting a room in someone's home, 143rd Street and 8th Avenue. I ran away several times. And I was living on the rooftops and then living on the subway whenever I could find a nickel somewhere, digging the garbage cans of Manhattan, find a piece of bread or something, or a rotten orange or anything to survive on. So when this opportunity came for me to go down for an audition, actually as a joke, I did it as a joke.
With the Catherine Dunham
Ballet Company, yes. And I was accepted because I just followed the teacher playing, you know. Somebody dared me to do that, so I took the dare. And I won a full scholarship, and that's actually how I got into show business. But it actually, in the back of my head, I wanted that position when I was offered the scholarship because I was really running away from my aunt.
The Catherine Dunham troupe takes you on, and you travel the world, and not only are you a dancer, but also a singer with the troupe. What was it, do you think, that made Eartha Kitt the survivalist, if you will? Because many people have to have someone to show them survival. Was it innate with you?
I don't think so. I think I never wanted to have anybody be responsible for me. Because I was told when I was able to understand words that nobody wanted me. I didn't belong to anyone. Therefore, no one would accept me. Therefore, I think subconsciously I was out to prove that I didn't need anybody to take care of me. I could do it myself.
And indeed, you take that drive, though, with you to Catherine Dunham.
Yes.
And to your career.
Yes, through my life. Of course, I need a partner. I'm constantly looking for a partner to enjoy it with me and to share things with me naturally. And I'm very lucky that I have my daughter, who's turned out to be an absolutely wonderful child. She's now a full-grown woman, and I'm now a grandmother, which also makes me extremely happy. But to be passing on the quality, the good qualities of yourself, I think that is what life really should be all about anyway. That you want to bring out the best in other people, and you want to share the best of what their values are with other people. Therefore, I'm very happy, more than happy, that I went through what I've gone through with all of the kicks and the manure that has been thrown on me. And I have bred a beautiful, wonderful thing. And I include myself in that because I'm very proud of the fact that I didn't fall apart. I didn't go off on the deep end with alcohol and narcotics and abusing and using men or people in the wrong way. I did it in the manner of which I have tremendous respect for myself and the fact that my child is a wonderful child. I love people. Even though I've been hurt tremendously by people, I still have a lot of faith in people. And therefore, I would not want to feel guilty of me hurting someone else because I feel everything that you do comes back on you. As those old sayings, you know, what goes around comes around. And I trust people. Besides, if it wasn't for people such as the public that has come my way, who knows what would have happened to me. Therefore, I want to learn as much as I possibly can to pass it on without hatred, without animosity.
I'll read you some things that have been said about Eartha Kitt. You tell me if you believe they're true. In their description of you, you always see brooding, haunting, feline. Right or wrong?
Wow. I mean, I have no idea. Of course, I don't have any idea where it came from. But probably because I was a dancer first, trained as a dancer, and I'm also an athlete. Because that's another way.
A pole vaulter, we should say.
Because I used to get myself off the streets of New York through the church contests through jumping hurdles and things like that, you know, and running and doing all sorts of anything that was a contest in the neighborhood, I would become a part of to get myself into a position where I could be responsible for me, such as joining the farmerettes when the boys were off in the war and they needed girls to harvest the farms in Connecticut. I know farming, so naturally, but you had to earn $10 a week in order to pay for your room and board there. Well, I was earning $50, $60 a week because I knew what farming was all about and I loved working. But being an athlete and a dancer, and then becoming the singer and the actress, and I do think that the body should go with the words. Because if you're going to be singing a song that expresses certain things, you know, you should be able to carry the body along with it so that everything is spoken, not only from here, but the whole body language should be speaking.
Many things have been written about you and relationships. There are a number of very famous men. The one that sticks out and everyone says, ask her. I know she's asked 100 times and we've read about it. Is indeed the relationship with Orson Welles, who helped catapult you to international stardom. Still very fond memories, I would guess, of that.
Oh, yes, but scared to death of him. And he also, which could never give me an understanding of his behavior from me, because me being as tiny as I am and as I was, particularly then, and he was this gigantic masculine figure as well as name-wise, and this wonderfully strong, dynamic personality. But when I spoke my words in his production of Faust, he gave me the part of Helen of Troy. As a matter of fact, when I asked him why he gave me the part, he said, because you represent all women of all color, races, and creeds and of all time. And as a result, he just be yourself. He didn't tell me how the character should be played. But in saying my part lots of times, because the audience's reaction to me was the way it was, and it was tremendous, he walked in front of me constantly. So it sounded as though he was the lines that I was singing. And there was a little song that Duke Ellington had written, words by Orson Welles and music by Duke Ellington, was hungry little trouble, damned in a bubble, longing to be or be free. All that you see is all about me, hungry me. And Orson Welles would say, Helen, make me immortal with a kiss. And he took me in his arms, and as he kissed me, he would say, is this the face that launched 1,000 ships? Crunch, right into my bottom lip, so that when I couldn't move. He held me so tightly, and my back was to the audience. I could feel the blood dripping down like nobody's business. I had no idea what I was going to do because I never left the stage. I just had enough time to run over to the wings and grab an apron and come back, and now you're Jane Doe. You know, you're still Helen of Troy, but it's contemporary times. And now I had to go and sing this little song. He went off in the wings. And I took the apron and I dabbed my mouth as I'm singing this song. And I glanced down and there was nothing but blood everywhere. And I was trying to keep the audience from seeing this blood dripping down the front of me. But somehow or the other, you manage, and somehow or the other, the show goes on in spite of everything. But when the curtain came down and I went to Orson and said, why did you bite me? He said, I got excited. And he was wonderful to work with.
Many people tagged you at one time as a woman who only wanted to date white men. Yet I saw you recently, and you said that's only because the media could sell papers that way.
Not only that, it was all the black men that I was interested in, all the white girls had them, so So people like Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier and Sammy Davis, for a black girl to be going with a black man was not interesting to the newspapers, naturally. So naturally, particularly when the wealthy white guys were after you, then naturally it was big news. Still is. Except I can't find one these days, no matter what color he is.
Do you consider yourself sexy?
I don't think in terms of sexy. Sensuous, yes. It's quite different. The sensuality is something you're born with, and you don't have to play at it. You are. Sexy is something that you play at it. It's like putting on your inside clothes on the outside and pretending and making people think that you're sexy. Or, all of the gyrations and all. It's wonderful to be able to tease. But when you're sensuous, there's nothing you can do about it. You are.
What's your most favorite aspect of your career? I mean, you have been a singer, a dancer. You've been nominated for a Tony, an Oscar. You've won an Emmy. You've been Catwoman. You've been everything, it seems. What's your most favorite, your fondest career memory?
I think first of all, when I did Mrs. Patterson as a dramatic actress, and I won, I was nominated. I've been nominated in every area of the business, every category. When I got that year, I think it was 1954, 55, they said not only is she the best actress of Broadway, but she's the best actress of the United States of America at that particular time. And they didn't look at me as a black American best actress. I was the best actress, and probably still am, except I haven't got the venue yet to show it, which I probably will this fall when I'm doing my own show. And the other one was after the White House incidents, when I was against the Vietnamese involvement of our boys escalating, or Johnson escalating the Vietnamese War. And not the American public, because the American public didn't know actually what happened. I did not defend myself by apologizing as they wanted me to do after Mrs. Johnson's questions, and President Johnson said he didn't want to see me anywhere in the United States, according to my dossier. And therefore I was not working in the United States. I never left this country because I happen to love this country. This is the most wonderful country, so we are not doing our thing in order to see to it that it stays that way, or even improve itself on the foundation on which this country was built, without a freedom of Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all this. And once we get rid of racial prejudice and be starting to treat people like we say Americans in general, not a black American or a Jewish American or Italian American, but Americans should be better cared for than we are. Foreigners are taken care of better than Americans are. But anyway, I wasn't working in the United States. And I was going outside of the country wherever I could find work. And I'm still having a hard time, actually, because you never know when the stigma is eradicated, and I don't think it ever will be. But when I came back to the Broadway scene in Timbuktu, and was carried in on the hands of Tony Carroll, who was like Schwarzenegger, a wonderful man. He was Mr. Universe, Mr. World, Mr. Everything. And when he carried me in, before my feet could hit the stage, it was a standing ovation from every person in that audience in New York City. And it was the American people's way of saying, welcome home, Eartha. And thank you very much. And even until this day, I'm still getting fan mail that says, thank you very much, Eartha, for helping us get out of Vietnam and bringing our boys home. This government owes me 12 years of my life, career-wise, in this United States of America. And I was lucratively making a hell of a lot of money in those days, which those years will never come back. So I would say this government owes me about $15–16 million with interest.
Is there something that you want people to know that they don't know?
Not really. I just want them to be interested enough to want to know.
Let me ask you this. Now that you're a grandmama, If you could paint your picture and kind of, and I know that you don't necessarily like to chart your future too far ahead, but as far as you want to chart it for me.
Well, when I leave here, I'm going home to Connecticut on my farm. So I never have any nails because I'm always digging in the dirt. Looking for a man, maybe it is it's very difficult, more and more to find. But actually, in all seriousness, I am writing another book, and I'm writing a book on James Dean, who was a spiritual friend of mine. Very wonderful. You would have loved him because he didn't like nonsense. He liked honesty. And also planning, which we have already started to plan, a one-woman show for me to come into Broadway with in the fall. We're planning on starting in the rehearsals the end of the summer. And now it's been written. But it's got to be funny. And if it's not funny, it's, you know, it's too heavy. Because people have think that my life has been too tragic, too dramatic, and really very heavy. But I found that it's been hysterically funny, as well as heavy, because you are always on the fringes of laughing, as well as crying. And I much prefer to laugh more than cry. Although tears once in a while cleanse your soul, as laughter does. But I'm hoping that it will come in the fall.
Before we leave, as we do with each of our guests, we ask them to leave us with a credo, something that they live by that perhaps they believe other people should think about.
I live by the 10 Commandments.
Plain and simple.
Do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. And remember that what goes around comes around. So I never think in terms of hurting anybody, because I will only wind up hurting myself.
Indeed. Well, Eartha Kitt, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.